Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with our friend Doug Griffiths. Doug is a proud father of two boys, 12 and 15 years old, and that is why he has faith in the world that it will continue to be better and better. Isn't that true? Looking at our young ones, that is where my faith comes from too, Doug. He also tells me that he's married to the most beautiful woman in the world in mind, body, and soul. So nice. Besides his loved ones, Doug is passionate about communities, which is obvious. He's also passionate about truth and justice, which he believes there is ample reason to be concerned about, especially in today's day and age. Friends, you'll find his full bio attached. Doug, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today.
I'm very much looking forward to this. I don't know if you ever remember where we met, but you spoke at a Ranchman's Club event, and I was so compelled with the inspiration. You were just so amazing. I thought, I've got to go out and meet this guy. Anyway, yeah. I was probably one of those crazy raving fans, but there I was.
No, I do remember that very specifically, and we had tea after.
We did.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good memory. Are you ready for the questions that we sent you?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm very curious to understand why you do what you do in this wonderful world.
Isn't that the ultimate question, right? I came from a small town in rural Alberta, and I was a rancher, and I couldn't wait to get out of the small town I was in. So took off to the city and went to university and got an honors degree in philosophy and then a teaching degree, because by that time I missed the farm and I wanted to go back to being in a small town, and I missed riding my horse. And then I realized all our communities were shrinking and facing constant challenges. So I shot my mouth off too many times about the need for a rural development strategy. And then I wound up in the legislature in Alberta, wrote a strategy for those communities, and then realized a lot of them were sabotaging their own success. So I wrote a book called 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. And after 13 years in politics, I came to my senses and I left, and I went back to community building. So I created a company called 13 Ways, and that's what we do. We work with communities all over North America, helping them change the mindsets that often hold them back.
That's awesome. I wonder, can we pause there for 1 second? With the same tools and suggestions that you have for communities, could that also be translated to a lot of the charities and social clubs? Like, as an example, our Rotary Club, which I love. I've been part of it for 17 years. And like many service clubs, we continue to shrink. Would that be some of the same things?
Very much so. Interestingly enough, I speak to communities a lot, and then we do some consulting with them, but we also speak to chambers of commerce. The book, the second edition, 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, is actually mandatory reading in half a dozen universities, some in Canada and some in the United States, for first-year students, because and then they apply to businesses. I've done consulting with businesses and not-for-profit associations too, because ultimately it's about our mindset and how we want one thing, but often we do the exact opposite, or we ignore the realities around us. So, in a lot of communities, people say, how do we keep our young people in the community? But after I spent 3 days there, I listened to them do nothing but run the community down and say there's no hope and no future, in the same breath that they're wondering why young people are leaving. I mean, you can't have it both ways. And we don't realize how much we sabotage our own success as individuals, non-for-profits, organizations, and companies.
Very good. I'm going to take a sidebar on that and invite you to our club. So
yeah, that would be great. I would love to come down.
Awesome, Doug. Thank you. And what about your top 3 things?
My top 3 things for
life. What are the top 3? Are there the top 3 strategies? Were there top 3 things that you're suggesting that we all look at right now?
Oh, you know what? When I saw the questions, I was so, I made so many notes that I lost the fact that there were 3 of them we were supposed to work through. But I can tell you that when I got my honors degree in philosophy, I have a minor in political science that goes along with it, but I also have a minor in Eastern religion. And so Taoism, to me, it's part of the reason why our philosophy is there's always a way, because in the word Tao means the way, and it's about finding your way in the universe. And I think one of the things we do regularly, not just as a company, but in my family, we constantly take a moment to pause and slow down and make sure we're on the path that we want to be. Because sometimes we do things because it's almost like dominoes. You just continue down that same path, even though it might not be the way you want to go anymore, and it might not have meaning. And it's actually why I believe so many people experience midlife crises, because they sort of start down a path and they don't spend enough time reevaluating it at regular intervals. They don't reevaluate it until, you know, they're 50, which got one more year until I'm 50. And then they're like, well, what am I doing? What have the last 30 years been about? So that, I think, is the number one thing to do. And I think this is a perfect time with this pandemic. We've seen people all around North America start to reevaluate the meaning in their life and the depth and purpose of their life. And they started to appreciate just how important community is and how important family is and our neighbors are. And I think community is going to see, the communities we live in are going to see a massive rebound. So the third thing I advise everyone to do, especially with municipalities, is evaluate whether or not you want to continue to build subdivisions. Subdivisions have been housing projects that we commute from to do everything else in our life. And yet more and more people, whether they're millennials or they're semi-retirees, are looking for neighborhoods to live in. So they're moving out of big cities, and they want to be in authentic neighborhoods, which is why, Boise, Idaho, and I can't remember the place now. It has such an unusual name in Kentucky, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, are attracting people because they're focusing on building real neighborhoods. And it's all part of, just people being grounded again.
I agree with you. I actually, and during the decisions around the lockdown, it's even more profound, where we can see people are looking at their homes differently. They're moving into places that are more suitable for being able to work from home, or at least a hybrid of working from home, being closer to whatever amenities that they were looking forward to be part of, or that community, as you said. I agree with you. I've got a question around our downtown Calgary. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think the city of Calgary, it should have been doing it a while ago. But to be honest, we don't ever change what we're doing when we're successful. We only change what we're doing when we face obstacles. And so people always say, "Oh, we're having a tough time now. We'll reevaluate this when things get better," and then they don't. So this is the perfect time for it to happen, is to evaluate what the future of Calgary is going to be. It sort of grew by habit, and it's got such a strong foundation with the oil and gas industry that we've seen over the last decade, Calgary moving from being the youngest city in all of Canada to it's fast approaching to be one of the oldest cities in Canada by 2030. And so because young people are choosing other things, they're not really big on the subdivision way out on the outskirts and the big long commute into an office tower. They know we're going to be working more from home. They know we need more co-working space. They know that they want to be by, not always franchise restaurants, but locally owned coffee shops and brew pubs, and in neighborhoods that they can work and feel. Because frankly, my generation spent 50 hours a week working with people, and by the end of the week we're kind of peopled out, so we go cocoon in the basement and in the backyard. But they spend now 40 hours a week, and now all of us do, looking at these screens. And at the end of the week, we don't want to go look at another screen like a TV. We want socialization and neighborhoods. And so with people shutting down office space, I mean, Calgary needs an aggressive plan to repurpose a lot of that office space downtown in a way that isn't just housing, because we need housing downtown, but social space too. Like I could see tiers of floors with residents on their co-working space on the next one. Why can't you have a brew pub on the 13th floor of an office?
Why not?
Right. And I think there needs to be some aggressive repurposing and a new philosophy that goes in what the future of cities are going to be.
I agree with you. I wonder if the city of Calgary would call you up. That would be a good idea.
Well, we'll see. You never know. We tend to work in medium-sized cities and smaller towns, but we're always one phone call away.
Well, if we're not careful, we're going to be a small. So,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I worked in a community in Ontario, and they were a very expensive community. It was a very touristy sort of wealthy neighborhood, and but their economy was shrinking. No new businesses were locating on Main Street, and they kept saying, "Help us." So I did, and I explained to them that they needed affordable housing. Or housing affordability, because no one could afford the housing there that was working those jobs. So when they got a job in their hometown, they quit commuting, and they
yeah,
just didn't come to the town, and no businesses would open up because there's no one to hire.
yeah.
And when I told them that, they said, no, we're not doing affordable housing. And then I explained what housing affordability was, and they said, no, we're not doing it. So their economy continues to shrink, and now the housing prices are going down, and pretty soon they're going to have housing affordability, whether they like it or
Yeah.
not.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Doug, thank you. And what do you see as a new frontier, something exciting, a crystal ball, if you would, like something that you see in the future?
Yeah. Especially for Alberta, I think that the government needs to adapt agriculture as
Mhm.
foundational to the future of the economy, and not exactly traditional agriculture either. Because if all we're doing is growing, wheat and barley and selling cattle, we're not adapting to the changes that are right in front of us. I mean, China
Mhm.
has 1.3 billion people almost now,
Mhm.
and they don't trust their own food supply chain. We have that's a massive market to reach
Yeah.
into if we just want to, but we have to produce different products. We have to grow them in different ways. So vertical agriculture, hydroponics, more organic stuff, diversified crops. We still have this picture of farmers, and we still use the word farmers. And if you ask anyone to describe a farmer, they'll paint a picture of a 60-year-old white male who
Yeah.
probably drives a big diesel pickup truck and has a big motorhome that they go away. And the food producers now in this day and age are 20 something and 30
Yes.
somethings that are doing half of it with a computer on
Mhm.
and trading goods internationally and growing incredible new products with new technology. I just got a note one of the team sent me yesterday. There's a company in Israel that I'm explaining how they do it, but they're using 3D printing to actually make a steak. And it's
I
real
love
meat.
it.
It's a real steak, and it's not coming from a cow.
Yeah.
I mean, I ask my kids when I picked them up from soccer, actually, because our oldest plays soccer. And I said it was lunchtime, and I had a bunch of them in the vehicle. I said, "Where do you guys want to go eat?" I assumed it would be McDonald's. No, it was A&W, and they wanted the no hormones beef,
Yeah.
and they wanted the no. We got there, and they all wanted the Beyond Meat burger. And
Wow. The
yeah,
planet. I
and
love
they
it.
made the choice because they could still feel like they're eating meat without actually having to kill an animal. And
Oh,
I was a rancher, and I have a bunch of rancher friends that say, "Well, that'll never happen. That's dumb." That's what everyone says right before they become obsolete.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
right.
right? Adapt to the change. And
That's
so I
right.
think there's magnificent opportunities for agriculture, given climate change, given our security and our safety, given our climate, and given the demands of the rest of the world that are going to desperately require more beef and more meat. Agriculture and technology coming together, I think, is the future of this province in the West.
I love your vision. If you ever decide to run again, you need to call me.
I get, I'm getting about 10 calls a day now from people
I'm
saying, please
sure.
come back into politics. But
No doubt.
yeah,
Doug, thank you so much for your precious time today and for your vision and insight and always so optimistic. I really appreciate you.
oh, it was my pleasure. This was a lot of fun. And if I can ever help with anything, and you just send me a note and I'll see you about coming down there. I'd love to have a chat with the club.
Awesome. I will definitely make some introductions. I appreciate it.
Sounds great.
Thanks again, Doug Griffiths. Wow. Oh, yes, we need him to run again. Put some prayers in, please, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Cat's Track. We'll see you next time.